Hello and welcome to Rabbit Hole Reflections. I'm so glad you found us. Here at RHR, we explore transformative journeys through life's deepest challenges. I'm your host, Lisa Van Slyke. Each week, I'll guide you through powerful conversations with guests that illuminate paths from chaos to calm. Join us as we discover how our most difficult moments can become the foundation for profound growth. Through these raw, honest discussions, we'll uncover the wisdom and resilience that emerges when we face our darkest moment. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us here at Rabbit Hole Reflections. I am your curator, Lisa Van Slyke. Today, I am joined by Zack. He is on a mission to help men with their health and fitness goals. Zack, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. So usually we just go ahead and jump right in. Go ahead and tell us about that rabbit hole journey and what brought you to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I am very passionate about helping men, especially entrepreneurs, business owners, high-level executives, improve their health and fitness, and then dads as well. I relate to all of those things. I know the chaos that it brings. So how I got here, in high school, like a lot of guys and a lot of people, I was somebody who played a lot of sports. I swam, I played soccer. When it wasn't in season for high school, I was doing club sports. I eventually got into doing CrossFit, really weightlifting to help support the sports in high school. So I was very active in high school. I was very lean in high school. I didn't have a ton of muscle, but I was very lean. And that was great. Then I got into college. I stopped swimming in college. I played soccer at Drexel University in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And so I was still active, and it was club soccer. So it wasn't full time everyday practice. It was a couple practices a week, a couple of games, but it was less swimming, less conditioning. I was still hitting the gym every once in a while. But what college brings is your own food. Right? I'm not at home anymore. I'm not having parents' dinners. I'm going to the cafeteria, the school cafeteria, eating whatever, whenever, however. There's the drinking on the weekends, maybe probably a couple extra nights than it should have been, right? Maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. So all of that stuff, I gained the freshman 15, and I wouldn't say that I was overweight. I was fortunate that I was so skinny in high school that I had room to put on that weight. So I went through college and put on extra weight. Again, I was still active, but my diet was not great. I was up late. I was drinking probably more than I should have been. And when I got out of school, I went to work at a full-time job. So the soccer went away, maybe one day a week. I was still going to the gym, but it wasn't super consistent. And I kept putting on a little bit of weight, and I never got super overweight, but I didn't feel good. I wasn't sleeping well. When I went to the gym, it wasn't going well. And so about a year or two out of school, I'm feeling terrible. The energy's low, and I'm 23, 24. Like I should be feeling really good and energetic. And so I had the exercise going. I was going to the gym, but wasn't feeling great. And so I started to figure out, okay, I'm having a bowl of ice cream every night. The meals that I'm preparing are rotisserie chicken and rice. So it's not terrible, but it's more volume than it should be. There's not a lot of veggies in there. So the diet wasn't dialed in. So I thought I need to change something because I don't like how I feel at all. And so I started looking into nutrition and macros, so protein, carbs, fats. What should I be eating? How much should I be eating? I started really diving into that and learning a ton of it. And I enjoy learning things. And it was a lot of math. Like it was just how many calories do I need to have a day? How much calories are in this? How many grams of carbs are in this? How many can I have? So it was a lot of math. I'm an engineer. So I liked figuring that part out and started dialing it in. And it took me 6 months to a year of learning and making mistakes and eventually falling off the wagon when it wasn't working right away, of dialing in what I'm eating and how much and when. And once I finally figured that out, probably after a year of playing with it, I started to drop the weight and really drop fat. I started putting on muscle because I was eating the right things. The workout started feeling better and I was performing better. And I do CrossFit. So it's a very competitive nature, both competing against yourself and other people. And so I started feeling better in that. I started sleeping better. The stress was gone. I wasn't crashing at the end of the day. And once I figured that out and really started dialing that in, everything else fell into place. And I started feeling so good that I wanted to start teaching other people how to do that. And that's where it really started. And so I was helping people on the side for free. I got some certifications. I went through coaching courses because I really wanted to dive into it. And so that's really where it all started happening. And now I want to take what I did. Again, it wasn't this massive transformation, this massive weight loss, but it was more of an energy thing. I wanted to just feel better. And once I felt that, I wanted everybody else to feel that too. And I didn't want them to have to go through the long learning process, the mistakes that I was going through. And that's when I started just coaching people and have been doing it ever since, and really have started to ramp things up. It was just a here and there side hustle thing. Now I'm really starting to ramp things up and turn this into a true business to be able to expand the reach that I have and expand the effect and impact that I can have on more people, and specifically dads and men, just because that's what I really relate to.
Your story is so familiar for so many Americans. First of all, the overconsumption of alcohol, the freshman 15 is real. It used to be freshman 10 when I was in college years ago, but I guess they've decided it's freshman 15 now. So many people are so active when they're younger, and then life just happens and they stop being active. I know I was very involved in sports in high school. So that, resonates with me as far as trying to track things. Tracking is, pretty much, you're not going to get better if you don't track, but it can be so confusing. There's so many things out there to track. So I'm actually really glad that I have you on today, because I know I'm personally trying to go through some experiences of changing my weight. And so I'm glad that you're here. I don't know that we're going to talk about a rabbit hole situation as much as we're probably going to expand on some of the things that are, are a result from what you did. And of course, how you do it, how you did it, and then, helping others. I had a thought when you were talking about the energy levels. You were very lean, so you probably didn't go into that obesity range because you had so much room that you could put weight and still stay within a healthy range. But you mentioned that your energy levels were better. And sometimes it's not those big things like the scale or the clothing, but it's things like energy. And I'm sure you saw an impact on how that changed your life as well by getting that energy back.
For sure. And that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the biggest things as I'm coaching more and more people that I'm trying to preface in the coaching is everybody wants to look at the scale. And I understand that it's the easy thing to look at and say, hey, I made progress. But that shouldn't be the end all be all on how you feel about what you're doing and whether or not it's a success. Mine was certainly, the scale was nice for sure, but it was the energy level, like you mentioned. And so, there's a bunch of different factors that you can look at. You can do body measurements, you can do pictures, right? Just because the scale isn't going down, maybe you're putting on muscle, or, maybe that water weight was weird that day when you did finally weigh yourself. So there's a bunch of different things you can look at, but ultimately it should come down to, am I doing the things that I need to do on a day in and day out basis to reach that goal of probably a goal weight, but of just feeling better and looking better and fitting better in my clothes. And so that's why I try to remind people to not get discouraged with it. What's our plan? Are we trying to eat, veggies with every meal? Okay, did we do that today? Did we do that 2 out of 3 meals? Like, did we do it 1 out of 3 meals? As long as we're making some progress, that's what I want to focus on. And that's what I want to reward and make people proud of themselves for just doing those things. And unfortunately, the things that you need to do to improve the health and fitness most of the time are extremely boring. So it's hard to be excited about that. But that's why I'm here to pump you up on something like that. Hey, yeah, things didn't go perfect. You're a dad and you have a busy day at work and you were only able to do one of the things that you wanted to do today. Okay, but at least you did something. And that's what I try to remind people of, is the scale will get there. It's the habits that we need to build.
I want to ask you, so there's a lot of health related things that do go along with weight, extra weight. It could be joint issues. It could be inflammation issues because of the food that you consume. It could be energy levels like we're talking about. How do you tell somebody they just have to have faith that these things are going to be better? And it really does come down to health your diet and your exercise. And I hate the word diet, but the food you consume and how much you move your body.
It's a constant battle. It's a huge mindset thing. So it's just a constant reminder. It's a constant communication. I mean, any client, anybody that I work with, even if I'm not working with them, people know that I'm somebody who likes to help people with health and fitness. So I get the message, and it's just a reminder. It's just constantly being like, okay, well, what did we do today? What went well? Let's focus on the positives and not all of the negatives, because you can always find the negatives because something negative happened that day. But what are the positives that we can find, and what can we use to build on? So it's just a constant reminder. And just like learning how to go to the gym more consistently or getting better at running, you have to start slow and you have to be steady with it, and eventually that running will get easier. And same thing with that thought process is, as you get more successful and as things build, it's going to be easier and easier to think of the positive things. But at the beginning, that's what I'm here for, is to help remind you of that and dig into it. Okay, not everything was negative. What was positive? It's just building that muscle of positive thinking.
So I do follow a lot of fitness people, not gender specific at all. I love them all. And I'm noticing the little wins that people are posting. So people who are just starting out in their journeys will say, I can put my arms down without pain. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds weird or absurd to people who don't know because they haven't experienced that. But there was a time when even myself to squeeze my arm next to my side physically hurt because it was too big. It was sausage when you get those rolls of meat and, they start to get closer to their date and they expand and you still have that sausage inside of this. That's what it felt like in my own skin. And so it would hurt to put my arms down. I've seen some people say they can finally cross their legs without assistance, or they can see their feet again, or their shoes aren't as tight. So it's those little wins that you don't realize that you need to also track. Do you have your clients do that?
100%. It's always how are things went, did you do the habits? How are they feeling? What went well? I mean, I had a client who he had a stretch where he was losing a bunch of weight, and it was very small, simple things that we've changed. But I was like, okay, besides the weight, how are you feeling? What's your energy level like? Have you noticed any differences? And he was like, I could bend down and tie my shoes way easier than I could a month ago. And it's like, perfect. That's the stuff that I want to dig in and celebrate way more than what the scale does, because we can't always control the scale. But guess what? There are tons of things that we can look for just like that, and keep looking for those, because that's going to keep motivating you even when the scale isn't telling you what you want it to tell you.
I love that. It's the simple things. The little things really do matter. And when you add those up, there's the compound effect. When you add those up, it turns into those big things. And noticing those small ones along the way helps you maintain the course to get to that big, huge celebration of, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, a pant size lost or whatever. So I love hearing that for your client. What is one of the biggest wins? And tying your shoes is huge. That is huge. What is one of your biggest wins, maybe from a health status? Like, did somebody have diabetes and they lowered their A1C or something along those lines?
Not specific in that aspect, but I mean, yeah, it went from a kind of similar to being able to tie shoes. It was the weight. Another client lost a bunch of weight, and now they can walk around the office a lot easier, and they're parking further away from the office now and walking across the parking lot. And that's not a strain anymore. That's an easy thing. It's a regular thing. And it's working up to, I want to be able to go for a hike when somebody invites me to. I want to be able to not have to worry about how am I going to move around at a carnival that I'm going to go to, or an amusement park, right? So, that it's that kind of stuff that has been huge for people, just being able to have exercise freedom. I talk to a lot of real estate investors and entrepreneurs, and they're looking for time freedom where I can do whatever, whenever I want. I want that for health and fitness people, for people to have the health and fitness, to have that freedom of, if I get invited to do something that's active, to be able to say yes and not worry about whether or not I'm going to physically be able to do it. So clients that go from not being able to walk up a flight of stairs to being able to say yes to the company softball game, perfect. Like those are the ones that excite me and I love seeing.
So you were in high school and you said that you were lean. Were you ever bullied for your stature?
No, I fortunately was not. I
That's good.
was, I wasn't the skinniest kid, but I wasn't the biggest kid. I was athletic, so that helped. Like in gym class, it was fine. Like I could move around and run around, so it wasn't something that I ran to, and I'm super fortunate at. And I hope that people don't do that, but I know they'd still deal with it, right? And bullying still happens, and that's try to spread the word. The stuff that I coach, the nutrition, the health, the fitness, all of that stuff applies not just to dads, not just the people that I'm focused on. It's all the same principles throughout. So if there are kids getting bullied and they because of their weight, like okay, how can we start fixing that? What can we start working on? Like I would love to be able to help that, but no, I was fortunate that I did not have to deal with that, at least for my body stature.
And of course, you're perfect just the way you are for anybody that's listening, but there's always room for improvement, particularly if you are challenged in life and you want to maybe spend more time chasing your children or your grandchildren. Speaking of, I know we talked before the show. I am, how I like to say, raising my 85-year-old parents. I know I don't look old enough to have 85-year-old parents. They had me much later in life. My dad is diabetic and has faced some challenges from the diabetes. He's also had a hip replacement and he has a pacemaker. So they weren't taking care of themselves as much as they should have. There's also this huge, oh my gosh, just this growth isn't the word that I'm looking for, with Alzheimer's, where we have just this massive population that is now, being diagnosed with brain problems. I read an article that said that Alzheimer's is actually diabetes 3, that they're relating it back to the sugar system, the insulin system and whatnot. So for me, the health is important because I'm seeing what my parents are going through, and I don't want my children to go through that. I don't want them to have to worry about me the way that I'm worrying about my parents. Sometimes it's a struggle. They can't drive, so getting them to doctor's appointments and whatnot can be a bit of a challenge. And I don't want to leave that legacy for my children. So, kudos to you for what you're doing to help people overcome their health challenges so that they can leave a mark on their children, whether or not their children are like my age, thinking forward into the future of this is what they're going to have to handle when I'm older, or, younger children where they can still be energetic. And then of course, set a good example for their children and grandchildren and those that are around them to just lead better and healthier lives. So thank you for being a part of the movement for, the health and fitness industry.
Yeah, for sure. And that's my driver as well. I get a lot of dads that come up and their why isn't that they want to lose weight specifically, or that's how it starts of, hey, I would love to lose weight. Kind of similar story where I was super active in high school or super active in college, and then things went off the rails for whatever reason. Life happens and they want to lose weight, but digging into it further, there's always a bigger reason why, whether it's you want to look good, feel good, whatever that might be. But ultimately, a lot of times, especially with the dads, it comes down to, I want to be able to run around with my kids, or I want to set a good example for my kids. And I love that. And that should be the reason that you focus and keep going. And that helps, the focus on that helps from looking at the scale and letting the scale dictate how you feel about your progress. But remembering, hey, if I had a bad week, okay, why am I doing this? Let's refocus. I'm doing it not for me, but for somebody else. And for whatever reason, people want to help other people before they help themselves. So if that's the focus, to get them to help themselves, I will be more than happy to redirect that and reinforce that for sure. And I think that is the ultimate goal, is to be able to run around with your kids and your grandkids. And that's the big driver. And I'm super fortunate in that my parents were always very active. So I grew up seeing that. My mom was a spin instructor, a step instructor way back in the day. So that was normalized for me. And if it's normalized for the kids, it's going to be so good for them long term, because they're just going to be like, oh, I don't know, I thought this just what everybody does, or it's what I do, and that's what my parents did. So setting that example is so huge. So I always love focusing on that aspect of it. Like, hey, let's do it for the kids, and that'll get you to show up every day.
And if your kids aren't the driving force, maybe you want to do a lot of traveling when you're, at the time in your life where you can do that. And being able to have, if you go to Europe, it's on trains and off trains, there's a lot of walking, there's jumping on trains, jumping off trains, catching your next, sightseeing place. There's not a lot of driving yourself around Europe. So you have to get ready for those types of challenges. And that might be something that somebody wants to do, or scale a mountain. And that's a great place to start. So what are some things that you can tell listeners, places that they can start, or, mindset work? Obviously at the end, we're going to give your contact information so they can reach out to you for that, personalized coaching and whatnot. But do you have anything that you can give our listeners before reaching out to you?
Yeah, for sure. So I do 30-minute free calls, and that's just something I want to help more people. That's not a sales thing or anything like that. It's just, hey, I want to help as many people as possible. I usually ask for like, hey, what'd you learn? That way, I can post like, hey, and it helps me see different perspectives. So, and I'll take you through that 30 minutes, a kind of a similar process, but ultimately it's what is the end result? What is the goal that you're looking for? Like, what can you think of now that you can come into the call with a little bit more information? Back to, why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? And try to dig a little bit deeper than, oh, I just want to lose weight. Like, I will help dig into it a little bit more, but really, why do you want to do it? What's that deep down emotion? Ask yourself why each time, and go a little bit deeper. So if you have an idea on that, that's super helpful, because now we know where you're going, and now we can figure out, okay, like, what's the time frame you're looking for, and that can kind of change some of the actions. Now, when it goes to the actions, what can most people start with right away? A lot of times I see the biggest thing is people aren't eating enough protein. And that's spread throughout the day. And we're talking ideally good lean protein. So chicken breasts, chicken thighs, ground turkey, ground chicken's fine too, pork tenderloins, really anything high protein, low fat. Steak isn't terrible, but it's just really high in fat. So the chicken breast, the ground turkey, the pork tenderloin, those are really good ones to eat. Eggs are good too. So increasing the protein and trying to get protein in every meal. That will help, because the protein keeps you full longer, it keeps you full faster, and you burn a lot of energy just digesting the protein in itself as well. And then if you're active already, or if you're trying to increase activity, then it'll help you build muscle and help you recover faster. So that's usually like the first place that starts. The second one is activity level. And I go activity level versus exercise. I think people hear exercise and they think I need to go to the gym and lift weights and do all that stuff. Daily movement. What can we do to increase the amount of activity that you're doing? And I always like to think of it as a dial from 1 to 10, right? So figuring out where you are on the dial. And the speaker is an analogy that I use. So if you're at the speaker and it's just on, you can kind of hear it. It's at a level 1. You wouldn't crank that speaker up to 100, because what's going to happen? You're going to blow out that speaker, and it's not going to work, and it's going to hurt your ears. It's not going to be good for anybody. But if you slowly turn that up from a 1 to a 10 volume out of 100, now the speaker's good. You can kind of adjust and say, okay, that's a good volume, just like exercise. So wherever you're at, if you're not doing anything at all, what can we do to start increasing that activity? And I mentioned before, a client who's parking across the parking lot and walking into the office. That's the only thing that we're changing. And you can see results just from that. And then once you do that for a week or two consistently, okay, can we take the stairs now? Or can we add 15-minute walk throughout the day? What can we do to turn that dial up? If you're working out 3 days a week for half an hour each, do we want to bump it up to 4 days? Or do we want to keep it at 3 days and bump it up to an hour each day? So just slowly turning it up. What's that one thing we can do a little bit more? A lot of times that's going to solve a lot of your what do I do next questions. So exercise, or the amount of veggies you're eating, or the amount of water you're drinking, like just turn that dial up and do a little bit extra. So just a quick summary: protein, increase that, and then increase your activity level or something else just a little bit, so that you can increase what your capacity is.
So you don't recommend taking it all on at one time. Like, let me drink my gallon of water and do 5 days a week of exercise, making sure I get the weights in there and dropping my calories to a very low deficit. You do actual increments with your clients.
Yeah. Very, very few people can handle a bunch of different new things at a time. And really the reason is, hey, it sounds very simple. If we're adding one extra serving of veggies per meal a day, like it's really more than just that one activity, because now you have to think, okay, what veggies am I getting? Now I have to go get them. Now I have to cook them, and then I have to prepare them. So rather than just one habit that we're trying to build, you got 4 or 5 extra things to do with just that. So trying to keep it simple, even though it's boring and it'll take a little bit longer, it'll be more permanent. So yes, it's always just slow and steady increments. And like I said, very few people can handle doing all of it at once. And I'm sure for 30 days it's doable, but is it doable for the rest of your life? And sustainability is really what I'm looking for.
One of my favorite phrases is change is actually easy. It's all the steps along the way that are the challenge or that are difficult. Like you said, putting vegetables on your plate, that's easy, but getting the steps along the way, that's where the challenge lies. So I love that you do it in increments. And I think a lot of people get really overwhelmed thinking, I have all of this stuff that I have to do, and I don't even know how to start in the grocery store. I've got to go clean out my pantry, clean out my refrigerator, throw away all of this stuff that I've already paid all this money for. And we've seen the price of eggs and milk lately. It's like, how do I do all of that? And it can become very overwhelming, and people quit before they even start because they haven't been able to get those small steps along the way. So I do like that you do the increments. I have another question for you. So there's the rage of 10,000 steps a day, 10,000 steps a day, 10,000 steps a day. I'm pretty sure that that's not accurate. Can you maybe expand upon that a little bit for us?
I think there's value in it. I think it depends on the level that you're at. I wouldn't keep that as the sole marker. I think it's nice because it does give you a target to go for, and it does give you something to look back on and go, how many days did I hit this 10,000 steps? So you can see, hey, did I reach my weight goal? And was it because of the steps? Did I miss 4 days out of the 7? Did I only do it one day, or did I do it all 7 days? But I think it's just a good way to get people moving. Everybody has, or most people have Apple Watches or something that can count their steps now. But it depends on where your goals are and where you're at. Like, for somebody who's already pretty active, adding 10,000 steps a day or getting that isn't necessarily going to get you towards whatever goal that might be. But for somebody who's sedentary, and for a lot of us sitting behind a desk, I know that's what I do 40 hours a week, getting that, making sure or trying to get those steps are certainly valuable. Just getting moving will keep that energy level up and maybe make you more likely to go to the gym after the work or make a better choice when it comes to eating that food. It's just getting that movement going. So I think there's value in it. I don't think it's the end all be all cure to everything, for sure.
So tracking is really important for your clients. Like, you incorporate tracking. What are some of there are tracking apps and whatnot, but what are some of your favorite things that you have them track?
It's all back to habits. So whatever we decide is the first game plan for them is the software that I use. You get a notification at the end of the day, like, hey, for one client, we're starting to hit 6 servings in a day of protein. How many servings did you hit? And then like a couple quick questions, like how did things feeling today? And so we're looking back on, okay, for the past 2 weeks, you were 10 out of 14 days, you hit your serving recommendation or habit that we're looking to build. And on average, you felt on a scale of 1 to 5, a 3.5 or something. So now we can look back and go, okay, now I have some data. Now I have some information. Did we lose weight? Did we lose inches? How do the pictures look? How do you feel? And a lot of times they directly correlate. If we're hitting that stuff 90% of the time, the weight went down, or they're feeling a lot better. Or if it's a 1 out of 10, then typically we didn't see any progress. And okay, we can go back. How can we change that habit so we can get a 9 out of 10 adherence, consistency to it? go from there. So I love data because it's true, it's hard, and we can adjust from it. And rather than just I don't know, it kind of went okay last week. It's like, okay, well, now I can have some solid numbers on what to do. So tracking those habits is super important, and really just one. I want to focus on one at a time until you don't even have to think about it anymore. Then we'll add another one.
All right. I love that. I love that. So I'm sure you have clients that come to you who are discouraged. What are some things that you like to do to help them get out of that?
Yeah. So first, it's why are you feeling discouraged? Like, dig into that, right? There's a reason we're having that feeling. Is it just because of the scale? And if that's the case, okay, how can we find something positive elsewhere? Or is it maybe you're just having a rough week or something outside of all of this is happening? Sometimes that discouragement can kind of come out of nowhere, just a bad day, kind of unrelated. So I want to understand truly, where is that source coming from? Ultimately, we're all emotional people. Things happen, and for whatever reason, it evokes an emotion in us, whether that's some kind of past trauma or past experience, whatever that might be. I want to kind of help work through that and separate what is actually causing this, and is it the discouragement in what we're doing? And then it's just spinning it to something positive. Okay, that's not going well. What is going well? And focusing on that. So it's a constant battle. Most of it is, sometimes I feel like I'm just a therapist, which is great. I love the people that see the best results are the people that are open and honest with me. And I hear more details than I probably need, but that's fine. Let me sit back and listen and really dig into it. I love just sitting there and, okay, now we can help and do that. So it's all emotion, and that's what I deal with a lot of time. And that's fine. And that's great. And the more open you are with me, the more we can attack it and figure out how to keep that discouragement from coming up again.
I love that you mentioned that. I'm huge on mindset work and getting down to the core of, am I an emotional eater? Am I a stress eater? Am I eating out of boredom? What are the, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word that I want, but the structures that my parents put in place, or the people that raised me, my caretakers, what are the structures that they put in place around food? Do I have to unpack all of that? So the fact that you do work on mindset and you tend to be some people's therapist, I do like that a lot. What are some things that you do? Do you actually, I guess, let me rephrase that. Do you try to figure out why they eat the way that they do, or is that something that just kind of comes along with all the other work that you do?
Yeah, that usually ends up coming up at some point. It's not usually a habit that I specifically track, but it is something that I do remind people, like, okay, when it didn't go well. I had a client who came up and he was like, it went off the rails last week. Okay. First off, what does that mean? It's like, oh, well, I had this, I snacked on this. Okay. Why do you think you did that? Right. When we're a week separated, you probably don't even remember. And most of the time they don't. So it's okay. If you feel like you need to snack or you find yourself snacking, I want you to pause and just think, why am I feeling this way? Am I bored? Am I stressed? What's going on at work? So yeah, it's not something I typically end up having to come out and do immediately, but at some point you lean on the snacking. Somebody leans on the snacking, or it's an alcoholic drink or a soda or whatever that thing they use to lean on. But ultimately it goes, we need to figure out the trigger that's causing it, because we can't fix it without knowing what it is. And the snacks are fine every once in a while. It happens. And if it's purposeful and it does make you feel better, then cool, like, let's do it. But I want to understand the reasoning behind why you might be doing it.
So you've left us a lot of great information. You talked about increasing your protein. One person has to consume 6 servings of protein. That to me is just way too much food. But like you said, we don't eat enough. And I know that can throw off my, metabolic rates and just the whole process of my metabolism. But you talked about tracking, you talked about increasing your food intake and whatnot. What are a few nuggets that you can just condense down into just a few minutes of giving that information and giving those tips to listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So figuring out where you want to go. How do you want to feel? What do things look like a year from now? That's the end point. And then taking an inventory of where is everything in my life now, from nutrition, from daily movement, from stress, from what's the support system around you, close to you, wives, daughters, cousins, whoever's immediately close to you. It doesn't have to live with you, but who's around you that will support you. And then sleep. Like, take inventory of those areas. What are you doing? What does that look like day in and day out? What are you struggling with in those areas? Typically, people aren't struggling with all 5 of those spots. There's one area that they can really lean on and build from into other areas. Okay. So figuring out what that looks like, and then coming up with the one thing that you really want to work on. Most of the time, I'm going through a call, an intro call, or a free 30-minute call that I do. We'll dive into all of that from a high level. And it's always, okay, based on everything that you've said to me, is there anywhere you want to start? And I let them lead the conversation because I want their buy-in. I have a ton of ideas. I could give you a list of things for everybody that if you just did this, 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 and this, in whatever order you want, you're going to see results and you're going to be successful. But I want to hear what your thoughts. You've just had all of the stuff brought up. So what is your initial thought? So you can do that for yourself. So if you go through these areas, what's the one thing I want to work on? Again, think of the dial. Where am I at? How can I turn it up a little bit? And start hitting those, every day, or coming up with a plan. All right, I want to start working out more. I'm not working out at all. What's realistic? What can I do? 90% confidence. 3 days a week, 30 minutes. Okay, great. Don't just stop there. What days am I going? What am I doing when I'm there? Having a clear and concise plan will get rid of all of the guesswork. So that way you don't wake up Monday morning and go, I'm supposed to go to the gym, but I don't have my clothes out. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll just do it tomorrow. So those are the couple of things that I would go through. Take an inventory of where you're at now, pick something that you want to start with, and then just start doing it.
Well, thank you for that. I do have one final question before you drop all of your contact information. What is more important, diet or exercise?
That is a good question. So it depends on where you're at. So if you're already somebody who exercises pretty consistently, I would say diet. And if you're somebody who has a really good diet, let's look at the diet as well. So my answer is diet. It's always going to be diet. That is way easier to dial that in and eat less calories than it will be to burn more calories by working out. So I could run for 3 hours and burn 1,000 calories. I could cut back 1,000 calories a day. I wouldn't recommend that, but I could cut that back way easier than it would take the 3 hours to do it, right? Just eat a less meal and spread the food out a little bit more, but it's going to be way easier to eat less than it will be to burn more.
Well, thank you for that. I fall in the line of diet as well, because we talked earlier, there's so many different, we are in a crisis here in the United States when it comes to health, weight, our wellness. And, there's been this huge movement towards getting people to a healthier lifestyle because of all the ailments that we are facing and the increase in heart disease and cancer and Alzheimer's and dementia and just the plethora of things that we have going on here in the United States. And I'm a firm believer that it starts with food. So I do thank you for that feedback as well. So we are coming to the end of the episode, and I would love for you to give your contact information to any listeners so they can reach out to you. Your contact information will be included in any of the show descriptions and any sort of promotions that are marketing that is done. So they will have an opportunity to reach out to you that way. But go ahead and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, perfect. The best place is Zack Busch 924 on Instagram and YouTube. So ZACK Busch, BUSCH, like the beer rather than the president, and then 924. So Instagram and YouTube, those are the two best spots. Those videos, my Instagram will all have links to the website, Fit Fatherhood. That's my coaching program along with my business partners. And on Thursday nights, so tomorrow night for whoever's watching this when it comes out, Thursday nights, every other week, I do nutrition talk. It's usually about 20 minutes. That's through Zoom, different topics. And then 30-minute calls you can find on the website that I gave. Those are free, just 30-minute calls. I want to come up with a clear action plan for you to leave that call with that you can start implementing and just helping as many people as possible through that.
Perfect. I do want to just drop the date because you said every other Thursday. So I want people to be able to backtrack. This episode has aired on April 24th, 2025. So by the time you hear this, you probably won't be able to get that Zoom, but you can make the one 2 weeks later. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of this great information. And, if you have any questions, listeners, if you have any questions, please reach out to Zack. He can definitely help you on your health and wellness journey. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Thank you for joining us on another journey down the rabbit hole. If this conversation resonated with you, be a light in someone's darkness by sharing this episode. Connect with our community on Facebook at Rabbit Hole Reflections and catch our video episodes on YouTube at Rabbit Hole Reflections Podcast. All resources mentioned today are linked in the show notes. Remember, we all face our own rabbit holes. It's not the falling that defines us, but how we emerge and what we bring back. Until next time, remember that even in our darkest moments, wisdom awaits. I'm Lisa Van Slyke, and this has been Rabbit Hole Reflections.